How do you start getting people excited about helping you? Like, is it just about cash? What other ways are there for startups to get that access to that talent?
Yeah. So different to one-person company right now, but you can't build a community the way that we have over the time that we have without figuring out how to get other people involved. It's kind of difficult sometimes when you're a sole owner of something to let go of the reins, but events were one of the key places we did this, and this is the way that I can answer this question best, is understanding value exchange, right? So I want someone to host an event. And that sounds to me initially like I'm gonna have to pay someone to host this event. The reality is that we ran events in 21 cities and none of the hosts were paid. Now, when I say it that way, it sounds very selfish, but when you realize what the value exchange philosophy is, actually it works for everybody. What I mean by value exchange is that everybody in the equation wants something out of it. As long as they get the thing out of it that they want, they're happy.
What about using agencies to get access to specialist skills? So I think in the past, if you're going back even 3 or 5 years, it seemed impossible for startups because they're so expensive. Like, how has that changed, and how can agencies help you scale?
Yeah, so I used to own an agency. Agencies are my background, and so a lot of the different plus advisory work that I do, we've got loads of advisors, but the work that I do is often with agencies. And some of the advice that I'll give them now, certainly in 2022 and beyond, and post-COVID and pandemic lockdown conditions where you can't have people in offices, is that they should be building more lean models, which is beneficial both to the client, the startup, the corporate, whoever's using them, and to the agency themselves. And what I mean by more lean models is handpicking and identifying talent that can be used on an ad hoc basis when a project is required. As a client, potential client, it's much better for me to hear that they're going to go and pick the best web developer of the language that I need from somewhere in the world because they've hunted them down and they're the best person they've ever found, than to know that I'm paying 3 juniors who are still figuring it out in the office, one of which is mostly not actually working on my project but somebody else's, and I'm paying mostly to keep the lights in the office on.
So obviously Fiverr are a big partner of the pitch this year, and they're offering access to their freelancers at a discounted rate for people in the pitch community, which is fantastic. And anyone that is interested in that, just check the video footnotes for the link. But what about bringing freelancers into a company? I mean, how do they help early on when you're just getting started and you need access to specialist skills?
I think they can help in a bunch of ways. So the first way they can help is just at the very least plugging gaps, right? We are massively cash strapped when we're starting companies most of the time. So being able to pay a small amount of money for someone who's got a really specialist skill to do one thing very specifically that's a blocker for us to be able to then pick up all the other stuff that we do as founders and creators is really, really beneficial.
What about using kind of junior talent or getting access to interns? Like, how does that work, and how can they help a startup founder?
So yeah, I was always worried about getting access to interns because the connotation of the word intern is unpaid member of staff. And there are 2 things to think about in this mix. So first thing is they may be unpaid, but the value exchange thing is also then really important. I would advocate for paying interns where possible, always, if you can, because unpaid work is unethical in my opinion. So pay them in some way, shape or form. An intern may value something more than money, potentially. They might value opportunity more than money. And if you're building a company that you can promise them involvement in via equity, via something, let's say they've got an ambition to be an entrepreneur themselves, but they only have the energy and not the idea, and you're bringing the idea to the table, then things like share options are opportunities for them to maybe get into something on the ground level.
So a lot of startups do use junior staff to get going, particularly because they're short on money and resource. So how do you build a great environment for those people that are coming into your business, and it might be their first job or they're very early in their career?
Yeah, so the popular answer to this is to be as flexible and as open and as amenable as possible. And that's true. The problem that we have as founders most of the time is that the imposter syndrome kicks in, and we want to overcompensate by doing so much of that actually you lose structure for the person that works for you. I've done it. I've seen members do it multiple times where you give them unlimited holiday, output only, do what you want, when you want, and hopefully something comes out the other end. And whilst that sounds amazing and is in an ideal world, the perfect way to work, what junior staff are often looking for in hindsight, which is a wonderful thing, is structure, leadership, some sort of foundational, structure to the way that they should be working. Give them clear targets, clear KPIs, clear inputs and outputs. What do I want you to do within X given time, and what do I need by when? The important thing to remember as a founder with imposter syndrome is that doesn't make you a bad person. It actually makes you a better leader. You might feel in the very hyper short term, i.e. the time you're telling them that this is the stuff that you want them to do, like the bad guy or girl or person. But actually the reality is that they will come back to you and thank you because they'll be able to see the fruits of their labor.